Norman Brennan, former police officer of many, many years and director of the Law and Order Foundation. We are going to talk about what I think the Chief Constable of Manchester has said, which is basically very, very sensible. He's essentially saying crime is being driven by an entitled generation that has never been told no and who instead take pride in not respecting others. Norman, if you disagree with this, I shall eat my jacket. How are you?
Yeah, good afternoon, Nick. Well, of course, I don't disagree with it. It's something I've been saying for several decades now. The sad reality is that too many of our children and youth nowadays know all about righteousness. They know about their rights. The sad reality is that many, and too many, don't know that with rights become responsibility. And if you're not responsible and you haven't been taught right from wrong from your parents, and then you go to school or you come across an incident where the police are involved and they tell you that behaviour is not acceptable, you suddenly challenge it. And the reason you challenge it is because some parents really have the similar attitude to their children. I recall when I was a police officer, I'd go home in the patrol car, take a juvenile off that's been involved in a robbery or a crime, and I'd meet their parent or parents. And sometimes the attitude from the parent or parents were identical to their children. Abusive, offensive, obstructive, and not care attitude. Now, if that is what the parents are like, what is it that their children are going to be grown up and turn into? We in the police used to call it mirror image. The child's behaviour mirror image their parents. And we'd often go out and patrol or go back to the police station, and we say to each other, we're soon going to be arresting that individual, putting him away in prison for months and then years. There's no hope where people are not taught right for wrong. And sadly, too many parents have become friends of their children rather than teaching them respect. Right from wrong.
Beautifully said, particularly that last sentiment. Let me ask you, though, what is the attitude in the schools when they come across children who are breaking the rules, whatever it may be? Because I have this sense that ever since schools, if you like, lost the ability to discipline or reprimand, even for the smaller offences, that it's also compounded this lack of parental responsibility. And the example I'll give you, and I'd like to think it's changed, Norman, so I will wait with interest to your answer. When I was a governor of a primary school in my old constituency of Enfield, going back to 2001, that far ago, I sat on disciplinaries for staff where actually they were complaining fundamentally that the teacher had told off their child or were being unfair to their child. In my day, the teacher's word was law. My father would have given me a clout round the head if I'd come home and had been rude to the teacher or something like that, and I wouldn't have done it again.
You're right. My sister was a school teacher, many special needs schools, general schools for 30 years. I recently met two young females in the pub when I was watching the rugby. We got talking about law and order and that sort of thing, and they were both teachers. A week ago in the same pub, I met a senior lecturer at a local university to me, and they all said the same. The time of respect, courtesy, and discipline is often lost in some, not all of our children, but sadly too many of them.
No, you're right. You're right to distinguish, Norman. Sorry to interrupt you. We are not labelling all children by any means here.
They challenge anyone and everyone. And as I said at the beginning of this interview, they have too many rights, and sadly they won't accept responsibility. So if you chastise verbally a child in school, when I was at school, it was done far more severe. It was with a slipper, a training shoe or a stick, and we certainly knew right from wrong then, and we didn't go home and tell our parents. Nowadays they will challenge teachers, they would challenge the police, and they think that they know it all. Unfortunately, they don't know it all. And as Steve Watson said, the Chief Constable of Greater Manchester, and he's spot on, if you don't understand that there are parameters and barriers of what behaviour is and isn't acceptable, I'm afraid you're going to turn around and just give out abuse and offence and ill discipline to teachers, the police and other people in authority, where once you daren't do it.
And now is it too late to row back? I mean, I feel there is a sense of it's too late to row back, but that would be perhaps condemning future generations to this. I mean, have we a chance? And if so, how can we change things?
This and the last generation are lost. We are absolutely lost. You go out in the streets, you look at children, not just young males, but females, in packs like wolves, feral, out of control, attacking bus conductors, attacking people in the streets, attacking each other. Some even carry knives. Unthought of. It wasn't perfect when I was a child, but we knew about respect, discipline and moral fibre. That was all. Unless we address that, yes, we are going to be lost for the foreseeable future.
Norman, what do you mean by feral?
I mean that their behaviour is out of control. They haven't been given the parameters and the borders of behaviour that is acceptable, often coming from the parents. It's not down to schools, it's not down to the police to tell children how to behave and what is and isn't acceptable. It's down to the parents. So if parents allow their children to go out onto the streets, meet like-minded individuals, attack other people, attack each other, carry knives, deal with drugs, then find themselves arrested, and my police colleagues go round and meet them, and they get the similar attitude, as I said earlier, from the parent that they did to the child, we just hold our heads in our hands, knowing that that child, and we hope that they grow up and make something of themselves, is going to end up in youth custody, then prisons, and they are going to be lost souls and individuals. And the Chief Constable said, we need to interact. The trouble is, Nick, we never do. We haven't got enough officers, and I'm afraid the control is out of control.